Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Namaste everyone and welcome to day 6 of the Navaratri Sadhana. We will begin the sadhana with 3 Omkaras. Sitting comfortably. Soft body, soft face. Beginning by taking 3 deep cleansing breaths. Preparing ourselves for Omkara. Inhaling deeply. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Ganana Antva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvannoti Bhisida Sadhanam Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinivati Dheenama Vitryavatu Ano Divo Brihataf Parvatada Saraswati Yajata Gantu Yajnam Havan Devi Jujushana Gritachi Shagma Novacha Mushati Shrunotu Vagdevyai Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Preparing ourselves for pranayam. Three rounds of Bastrika. Finish off your practice with 3 cleansing breaths. Three rounds of Kapalbhati today. First round, 20. Second round, 30. Third, 40. Finish off your practice with 3 cleansing breaths and end with a Namaskara mudra. So I know that you've ended your practice. We will now move on to Nadi Shodhana. And before that, the rounds of Surya Vedana and Chandra Vedana. 5 rounds of Surya Veda, 5 rounds of Chandra Veda, 5 rounds of Nadi Shodhana with the mudra, 5 rounds of Nadi Shodhana without the mudra. At the end of the practice, please take the Namaskara Mudra so that I'm aware. Place your palms gently on your lap, assuming the mudra of your choice. Chin mudra, Chinmaya mudra, Abhaya mudra, Before we move on to mantra sadhana, we'll ask ourselves a few questions. Who am I? Who am I? And it's okay if you don't know the answer immediately to this question. The point is to begin the dialogue. Who am I? Allow the answers to spontaneously rise in your mind without judgment and without engaging with those questions. Just allow the answers to arise. What do I want? What is my deepest desire? What is my purpose in life? What is my swadharma? How can I help? How can I be of service? What am I grateful for today? In this moment, what am I thankful for? Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, let go of all these questions and answers. Now gently bring to mind your mantra, your Guru mantra if you've been initiated, or Omkara, Om, if you do not have an initiated mantra. Mentally repeat it. Now think your mantra on every intake of breath, on every inhale. Now repeat the mantra on every exhale. Now mentally repeat the mantra on every inhale and exhale. Continue to meditate gently. I'll let you know when we move on to the next phase of mantra sadhana. Now stop thinking the mantra and sit comfortably with your eyes closed. "32 names of Ma Durga," repeated 3 times. Om Durga Durgartishamani Durga Padvinivarini Durga Machedini Durga Sadhini Durga Nashini Durga Todharini Durga Nihantri Durga Mapaha Durga Madnyanada Durga Daitya Lokadavanala Durga Ma Loka Durga Matmaswarupini Durga Marga Prada Durga Mavidya Durga Mashrita Durga Madhyana Sanstana Durga Madhyana Bhasini Durga Moha Durga Maga Durga Martha Swarupini Durga Masura Samhantri Durga Mayudharini Durga Magi Durga Mata Durga Mya Durga Meshwari Durga Bhima Durga Bhama Durga Bha Durga Darini Om Durga Durgartishamani Durga Padvinivarini Durga Machedini Durga Sadhini Durga Nashini Durga Todharini Durga Nihantri Durga Mapaha Durga Madnyanada Durga Daitya Lokadavanala Durga Ma Loka Durga Matmaswarupini Durga Marga Prada Durga Mavidya Durga Mashrita Durga Madhyana Sanstana Durga Madhyana Bhasini Durga Moha Durga Maga Durga Martha Swarupini Durga Masura Samhantri Durga Mayudharini Durga Magi Durga Mata Durga Mya Durga Meshwari Durga Bhima Durga Bhama Durga Bha Durga Darini Om Durga Durgartishamani Durga Padvinivarini Durga Machedini Durga Sadhini Durga Nashini Durga Todharini Durga Nihantri Durga Mapaha Durga Madnyanada Durga Daitya Lokadavanala Durga Ma Loka Durga Matmaswarupini Durga Marga Prada Durga Mavidya Durga Mashrita Durga Madhyana Sanstana Durga Madhyana Bhasini Durga Moha Durga Maga Durga Martha Swarupini Durga Masura Samhantri Durga Mayudharini Durga Magi Durga Mata Durga Mya Durga Meshwari Durga Bhima Durga Bhama Durga Bha Durga Darini Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Today I will chant the Durga Suktam. Om Jata Vedase Sunavama Soma Marati Yato Nidahati Vedaha Sanaf Parshadati Durgani Vishwanaveva Sindhunduritat Yagnihi Tamagnivarnan Tapasa Jvalantim Vairochinim Karma Phaleshu Jushtaam Durgan Devi Gum Sharanamaham Prapadye Sutarasitarase Namaha Agne Tvam Parayanavyo Asmat Swasthi प्रचोदयति दुर्गाणि विश्वा पूश्च पृथ्वी बहुलान उर्वी भवातोकायतनयाय संयोः विश्वानि नो दुर्गः जातवेदः सिन्धुन्न नावादुरितातिपर्षि अग्ने अत्रिवन्मनसा गृणानो ओस्माकं बोध्यविता तनूना प्रतनाजितगुं सहमानमुग्रमग्निगुं हुवेम परमात्सधस्थात् स नः पर्षदति दुर्गाणि विश्वाक्षामद्देवो अतिदुरितात्यग्निः प्रत्नोषिकमीड्यो अध्वरेषु सनाच्च होतानव्यश्च सत्सि स्वाञ्च आग्ने तनुवं पिप्रय स्वास्मभ्यं च सौभगमायजस्व गोभिर्जुष्टमयुजो निषिक्तन्तवे एन्द्रविष्णोरनुसञ्चरेम नाकस्य पृष्ठमभिसंवसानो वैष्णवीर्लोक इह मादयन्ताम् ॐ कात्यायनाय विद्महे कन्याकुमारी धीमहि तन्नो दुर्गिः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्तिः 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 I will now chant the Katyayanyei Gayatri 10 times. Om Katyayanaaya Vidmahe Kanyakumari Dhimahi Tanno Durgif Prachodayat. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Allow the vibrations of the Gayatri settle down around you, within you. Become aware of the space around you. Become aware of your position in that space. Become aware of the weight of your body on the ground or on your seat. The placement of your palms on your lap. The position of your fingers in the mudra of your choice. The feel of your clothes on your body. Sounds around you. People around you. Plants, animals, things. Acknowledge that they're all there, they have their space, and so are you. Safely practicing your Navaratri Sadhana. Very gently get your palms to Namaskara Mudra, center of your chest. Bow your head down lightly. Allow the tips of your thumbs to gently touch the center of your chest. Rub your palms till they're nice and warm. And when they are nice and warm, place them on your eyes and across your face. Looking into your open palms as you very gently flutter your eyelids open. Don't forget the smile in your heart and the smile on your face. Hari Om Tat Sat. Ma Katyayanyei. Katyayanyei. She has 4 arms, one carrying a lotus, one carrying a sword. 2 palms and 2 arms positioned in a mudra, Abhaya and Varada mudra. In this position, however, in this form, the Varada mudra is in the upper right arm that she has. The palm, the thumb slightly moving inwards is the same as the Varada mudra. Okay, that's the difference between Abhaya and Varada, slightly. Okay, when you give someone, you don't give this way. There is a gentle giving. The thumb is actually nudging whatever you're giving to someone. Try that. See how it feels. Just lift your palm and see, how do you give someone something? Do you just hold it this way on top, or do you give it? There's a thumb that's involved. That's the Varada mudra, regardless of where it is. But most of the times when you give, it's in a downward. A giving position is from a position of having it higher up than it's going down. Ma Katyayanyei is considered to be one of the most violent forms of the mother. The most violent forms. Her name Katyayanyei is attributed or is because of the sage Katyayana. Okay. Katyayana had longed to have Ma Durga as his daughter. And he had done a lot of penance asking for that. He said, I want Ma Durga to be born. I want Durga to be born as my daughter. Now, as we have it in many of the Puranas, there was this Asura by the name of Mahishasura. Mahishasura is the prime villain in the Navaratri story. Okay. Does any of you remember the form of Mahishasura? I know some of you know. Yes, Rishabh, the buffalo. So Mahishasura, the Mahisha, the name in itself, does indicate that he is an Asura who was part buffalo, part human. Okay, but he was this buffalo form. Okay, he was of buffalo form. And when you look at any of the texts, anything to do with the buffalo has got a very tamasic energy. Okay, for those of you who've taken Ayurveda with me would remember that buffalo milk makes an individual very sleepy and lethargic. Very tamasic quality to the milk. Also is very, very high in cream content. So not necessarily good cream, right? So the ghee that you get from buffalo milk will be abundant, but it will not be of quality. Okay, so there is a difference between cow milk and buffalo milk, and buffalo itself is largely tamasic. So Mahishasura was this, was this most arrogant and deviant of all the asuras. And in the story itself, in the katha, when we'll speak about the katha of Navaratri in a couple of days, where we'll actually go through the whole thing and see, okay, what exactly happened here? Mahishasura was creating havoc, okay, in Devaloka and all over the place. So he was driving the Devas crazy, and then eventually he wanted to push them out, and he did manage to push them out. And the Devas were like, what do we do now? And there is this Mahishasura who's here and who's taken over our place, and now we have nowhere to go, but what do we do? Evil is in power right now. And they eventually knew that there's only one way you can overcome, or you can have victory over Mahishasura, and that would be by praying to Devi. Okay, and that was the Shakti, the Adi Shakti as well, the primordial Devi, the mother. Now, Katyayanyei was an ardent devotee of Shakti, okay? And that's why his penance was rewarded by the mother. Now we'll see how these two intersect. So eventually, the three main gods, okay, Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra, they all came together. Maheshwara at that point in time, not Rudra. So Shiva has got different names based on the different forms. Okay, so when we do perhaps a Shivaratri session once, we'll speak about the three forms again over there. But the three of them came in together and they said, okay, now we need to invoke the mother. Okay, it's like you've got all of these children, and then when they squabble amongst themselves, they say, let's go to mom, and they go to mom, and they invoke the Devi, and they invoke her with the energy that each of them possess. Okay, so they brought together their collective energies for the manifestation of that creation, and the individual energies of Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara came together as rays, okay, three rays of energy. And these three rays of energy met at a point over Rishi Katyayanei's hut. And he energized these three because he had received a boon from the mother at any point, because of his penance, saying, you will be able, Ma Durga will be born to you. And at this point, when he noticed the energies of the three devas together, he energized them with the power of his own gift of penance, gift of tapas. And from that union of the devas along with Katyayana's own energy, this form of Ma Durga was born. And that's why she is named as Katyayani, Katyayana's daughter. Okay. And this form of the mother was or had emanated in response to the asura that was really terrifyingly tormenting all the worlds. So she couldn't come in as a brahmacharini or a Shailaputri. She had to come ferociously prepared. And here she was as Katyayani with that sword, because it is with that sword that eventually she gains victory over Mahishasura. Okay. Now, Mahishasura, when we say that Mahishasura has that buffalo form, here we're not talking about the form in terms of what you'd look at on the surface, right? So if you look at it on the surface, and when I tell you, okay, he's part human and part buffalo, it's very easy to just pause from the entire discourse and say, what just happened in these texts? What just happened here? Are we talking about something natural or something abominable? What are we talking about here? We're not talking about, and I've had this conversation, okay? I've had this conversation with a number of people who say the Vedas, the Vedic texts, the Puranas are all, having all sorts of deviant behaviors. And Mahishasura was described as a figment of someone's perverse imagination. If you look at it on a very topical, on a very subjective, very, tangible level, on a very low intellectual level, makes sense that it might be some kind of perverse text. It isn't, because all of these texts were meant to have vivid imagery so that someone who is learning the ideas, learning the thoughts, learning the values, can see the imagery in their mind and learn from it. Eventually, they will move away from the stories in the Vedas. They'll move away from the Puranic descriptions and, the imagery, and intellectualize the concepts. Mahishasura, in an image, in the imagery, is a very, very tamasic being. Okay. When you have your sattva, rajas, and tamas, highly rajasic qualities can also be imbalancing, and so would highly tamasic. But when you're looking at the potential to cause harm to someone, right? It is not quick and sharp as and rajasic, but more of deviant, underlying, conniving, and at the same time cloying, and to do all of these things from a very deep-seated, deep-rooted place, and those are very tamasic qualities. Okay, so Mahishasura is slow and vengeful, and he, all of these things, and that is that tamasic quality. So what these stories are talking about here is the deep tamasic tendency for people to display asuric qualities in our lives. Okay. So Mahishasura is that. Mahishasura is that embodiment through imagery of an individual's potential to be a menace to society. Okay. And it does not take one, it doesn't take one angle to overcome this asura, be it within us or without. Okay. It takes Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer, and Maheshwara, the destroyer, all three together to manifest the Devi. Now, in the Devi Bhagavatam, it is beautiful to read. It is quite fantastic, right? To read itself, just to read of how that happens, how those rays were formed, in what colors, and then once the Devi was formed, there were all the different devas, not just these three other devas, who then went on to give the Devi individual gifts that they have. They're returning it back to the mother so that she can be strengthened and armored, right? So it's not just one. But at the same time, in the stories of the creation, you'll find that the mother gives rise to Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, and tells them, this is your role, right? Your role is to create, your role is to sustain, and your role is to destroy and dissolve, actually, not destroy. So you see how we have to use those words also. Like, destroy means just completely damage and break through everything. It isn't. It's actually to dissolve. It's like when you have moon sand or clay, you've got the clay, and then you preserve the clay, then you form something out of it, and then you can once again, just smash it all together, and then it becomes, you're dissolving it. There's a dissolution of that, of the forms, and then you can create again. The purpose of understanding this is that this very violent form of Ma Katyayanyei is required to be of that intensity to be victorious over that intensity of the asura within us. How does this translate to us in our sadhana? It translates in the intensity of the tapas that you're putting in. We speak about compassion, and we speak about empathy. We speak about all of these things throughout Navaratri, and we keep reminding ourselves that the mother is very compassionate, that the mother is very kind. But kindness does not equal the lack of discipline. Okay? And that discipline comes as tough love sometimes. Now, this is something that we can easily relate to when I say it's from the outside. It's easy for us to say, okay, a parent may have to employ tough love to discipline the child. But throughout this Navaratri, the invitation is for you to reflect that same idea, that same principle inwards. And you say, this is within me, and I invited all of us to be a little bit more loving, a little bit more compassionate towards ourselves the other day. But today, what are we talking about? Today, we're talking about not mistaking or misunderstanding compassion and limiting ourselves from that tough love we can give ourselves. The tough love of discipline that we need to employ. So in our lives right now, Ma Katyayanyei is to be invoked, to tap into that self-discipline, that tapas. No tapas is easy. I've said this to many of you who have worked with me personally. The moment you decide that you're stepping on this path, the moment you decide that, even if it's just practicing asana, okay, let's talk about asana, you will have something or the other come up. The very first thing is your body will start crying when you start asana. Say, oh no, I've got the aches and the pains and I won't do this today. And you won't do it. And then the next day, something else will happen, right? You'll come back to asana, and then you might have a dinner to attend, or you might have a guest, or you might have something at work. You'll always have hurdles, you'll always have obstacles, and those happen. And it's easy for us to say, okay, fine, I'm supposed to be compassionate towards myself, and, that's okay. Life happens. I'm doing my off the mat yoga at this point in time, and here we're still talking about asana, right? And that as that form of tapas. But you talk about any other habit that you want to create, any other habit that you want to inculcate, a good habit, and you will find obstacles coming in. That's when you remember that those habits, those bad habits, those excuses that you're making, or the excuses that come up as situations and circumstances, and say, I'm not making an excuse. This is what it is. This is what I'm being faced with, right? Now, unless you have that circumstance or that situation that takes up your entire day, you'll still have some place in which you can incorporate whatever good habit you're trying to inculcate, right? And that will be painful, because no one said this journey is easy. And that is when you tap into your compassion, but not use that compassion to excuse yourself from the work. That's when you really be very stern with yourself and say, when you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm looking at myself in the eye, and say, what do I need here? I need some focus. I need some discipline. Tough love that we give ourselves as that form of the mother within us. The invitation to each and every one of us during Navaratri is to recognize that the divine mother is within us, the divine is within us, and so are all the problems and all the asuras. Not to keep doing what we've done always and look outside and say the problem is outside, the problem is without. Some problems are, but those problems also are within themselves. And the only person you can control is yourself. You can only control yourself. And even then, how long can you control your body? Just pause for a moment now and just think of the posture that you're in. Just freeze. Just think of the posture you're in. The position of your hands, at least from the videos that are on and I can see. And you'll see, did you know that you were placing your hands there? Did you know that you were nibbling on your little finger, Kristen? Did you know that? Did Rishabh know that he's just going to be looking at me this way and say, okay, now I can't move my hands? Unfreeze, please, everyone. Okay. But if you didn't know that, where is that control that you have on your body? If you do not have control over your body, then how can you control someone else's body, let alone how can you even control their mind? How can you control someone else's thoughts? You may influence it very marginally, very, very minimally. So we shouldn't think of ourselves as that great that we influence so many people. We don't. Everyone chooses to be influenced or not. We talk about popular influencers. Yes, they are a problem, but they are a problem because they influence people through different strategies. The strategy employed is very different, and that's not a conversation for now. But here we're talking about something more deeper. We're talking about us being influenced by ourselves. Be your own influencer. I think that should be the tagline for today's satsang. Be your own influencer and invoke Ma Katyayanyei. Why? Because in that battle over the asuras, it is only Ma Katyayanyei who takes us on to the last 3 days. We're on day 6, 7, 8, 9. That's when the actual war, when the push gets to shove, right? That's where we need that. And if you see now progressively, the forms of Ma Durga will be stronger, more warrior-like, because they're still compassionate, but you need to have this energy. You need to have the energy of sternness, of wanting to change, of wanting to reprimand, if that's a kind word that you like, and all of these are within us. So do not be afraid. Abhaya mudra. Do not be afraid to annihilate the demon or the asuras within you. What is that fear? Say, what's the worst that will happen if you remove coffee from your life? Oh, I'll feel jittery. I won't be able to do, or I won't be able to work. We have one of us, at least in this session here, who has done it. They're still working quite successfully, if I understand correctly, right? And they just had to give up coffee, and it was difficult. Each of us will have to give up something to experience that. And we'll notice the pain, and we'll notice the withdrawal, and we'll notice the irritability that we bring to the room just because we're giving up something that, that wouldn't have harmed. I mean, how bad can coffee get? People are doing worse things. And coffee, do I really have to give up coffee? Yes. You start by giving up the most simplest things and see if you can give that up and see if you can live without it. We've got our phones and we've got a number of things. And remember, anything can be an attachment. Anything. Anyone can be an attachment as well. So an attachment is not only to a physical thing or an inanimate thing. It can be an animate person or a being, or it can be an intangible. It can be an idea. We are attached to that idea. To detach ourselves from an idea is even more difficult. So start with something that, that you don't have emotions tied with, or whose emotions are also not involved. So try with something that is inanimate first. Bring Ma Katyayanyei there, that element of compassion and tough love that you can employ and know what it feels like to then bring that into your lives. Okay. We'll end today's satsang on that note. Today, I will close with Purnamada. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Durgam Arpanamastu. Shri Jagadamba Arpanamastu. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Namaste, everyone. Have a very pleasant rest of the day. For those of you who are in India, the day is just starting. And for those of you elsewhere, enjoy your evening. And I will see you all tomorrow. Namaste.